More back to Chief.
Susan Vaterlaw?
Waterlaw,
Yeah, Vaterlaw.
however. No, I had heard about the church.
12:30.
I saw a woman, and she was pretty excited about doing the church, but it didn't last very long. And
So it was really just a test for one night to show, again, that there was support in the community and that people would show up if we had something like, this was after a feasibility study was done on the rotating shelter by the county. And so in an effort to ensure that that didn't kind of fall away after, because it happened at the, during the fall of the previous year, so we didn't want it to go away since they couldn't make it happen in time for the winter. We opted to do a test to try to say, look, there's interest, there's issues, there's concerns, which is what led to, not necessarily directly led to an RFP being released for a rotating shelter. But again, now, the biggest challenge is having enough community support from faith-based communities to provide a space, because one of the main reasons that a rotating shelter is one of the best options for the coast is the high cost of maintaining a shelter and the fact that there isn't really funding from the Department of Housing anymore to maintain brick and mortar shelters, because their focus is on rapid rehousing. So if you can catch somebody early on in their homeless stint and get them immediately housed within 2 weeks, then they're more likely to continue to be housed longer term. But the longer it takes to get them housed, the longer it will be before they can get housed, because then you don't have history with the landlord. I mean, like all of these things that we're addressing with some of our more chronically homeless folks who've been homeless for 25 years or 20 years. They have no history renting, and mental health issues and all of these other things that then become a challenge for folks to kind of take a chance on somebody who hasn't been housed for a long time.
thank you.
Yeah. So it seems like there's a lot of problems that can cause homelessness. So that there will be, a lot of different solutions depending on what kind of problems you encounter. And it's really positive that the police department have CIT trained staff. That is a big step forward, I think. Obviously, we're hopeful always that we'll get some more money and some more support from the county. I think we've been shortchanged, to put it bluntly, on that. I don't have any specific recommendations for you, because I think both of you have done an awful lot of thinking about this and have come up with the best you can come up with. And so that's all I have.
Deirdre?
Oh, I still wanted my light on. I thought we had to come back to Chief. So my thoughts are that I agree that we're doing a lot. And there are a lot. I think the last count was like 15 encampments here in the city, and they're not just camps now. There are some formal structures being built. So people are actually building shelters now as well. And for some of the issues that we see for police and neighbors, some of those things are, hazardous. So if, Public Works get a phone call to go out there, it's dangerous for them in some cases because there's some biohazard or so, and at the same time, you can't just go in and bust up somebody's home without offering them something. So, so we've got the Resource Center, we've got Public Works, we've got BPD. There's the Pacifica Collaborative that invited you to their upcoming meeting. And so, and all these things take time, and all these things take money too for us to do, right? So obviously, the people are very important, and I know that, Anita, you have that covered and are a very good resource for that. But my suggestion would be that we set aside time to look for grant money. You know, I mean, you had made a proposal about the, you know, what did you do last time about the RVs kind of parked and proposing an ordinance, and I like that kind of proactive thought process. Hey, let's see if this goes, and so that kind of time, we can set that aside to look for grants, look for anything, and I'm sure you've probably looked at all the grants, but maybe there's something special for a government agency. And that's all I would say is, and also kind of, it's not just a Pacifica issue, it's a countywide, it's nationwide. What are other places doing? What's innovative to, you know, let's try to think outside of the box. That's all I would say. Thanks for the detailed presentation.
And I am assuming this May 2017 report's the latest report, right? Do you think, because it's interesting, they note here that there were several cities with fewer people counted and an almost equal number where the homeless population increased. So it's more like they didn't help homeless, they all just moved somewhere else. And do you know if that's true, or? No, go ahead. You can sit down there if you want.
I would say that I heard from some folks who were in different parts of the county that felt like their numbers were lower than they would have expected, and part of that had to do with a new way of counting. Every year they had come through a different methodology. So, you know, I'm sure some folks have left the county. I think that one of the strategies of the county is, if you can't afford to live here, move someplace you can afford to live. And so in some cases, they've been using rapid rehousing funds to house people in Stockton or further away, because then they can afford to live. The challenge there is that their children's schools are here, their jobs are here, and so it's this back and forth. So in some ways, it's cheaper rent, but the cost of everything is basically the same, unless they can get jobs locally. And so that has been a strategy of the county, is to move people out. And I think that's a challenge, because it changes the dynamic of a community when you're moving all of the people who have lower incomes out of a community. And that's been a long time issue for the other core agencies that work with the Center on Homelessness in San Mateo County, because we have to get used to this idea that housing, any housing, is good housing, even though it's not the best quality of life. So, so yeah, I think that people are moving around. They're moving around to where they can, and then if they're in cars, it's a lot easier for them to move to another location when things get a little bit too difficult for them to stay there.
Other comments? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, for staying so long. And that's our final item on the agenda. So,
I want to say thank you again, if I may, to Keith. Going to miss you. Thank you very much, and best wishes to you.
Me too.
yes. So meeting's adjourned.
In Sacramento last week.